we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Watch it be on there.
We did say God.
Yeah.
At least we kept God in the pledge allegiance. Good job. Okay. Roll call.
All right.
Roll
So
call.
how do you do roll call there? I just say, I just call your names or
Yeah, sure.
just say your name if you're here.
Matt Vaughn.
Oh, Matt Vaughn,
Amy Beers.
Amy Beers,
I'm here.
Lloyd Hulings, John Guras, Misty Edinger,
Here.
and William Edinger.
Here.
Okay. And then we're going to approve the agenda. We're going to talk about nomination of officers, meeting rules, appointment committee bylaws, nomination of commission vacancy board, retain an attorney, public comments, and then announcements, with the meeting dates and time and location, and then adjournment. Okay. Now, we don't have Erin Vassallo. She's not here today, and we tried to connect with her. And has anybody tried to call her? Right to her?
Last time I heard, she took a job out of town. She got a new job. She's training on a new job.
I've tried to contact her twice via social media.
Okay. So do you guys want to maybe try to contact her one more time? Maybe before next meeting, before we fill her vacancy, or?
I make a motion to try to contact her one more time via social media.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, now we're going to elect small officers. Or wait, was it? Yeah, nomination of the officers.
John, I think you should be chairman.
I second that motion.
Okay. And then we have the vice chairman. I'd go
Recommend Lloyd.
recommend Lloyd. Recommend.
Second it.
And then
Burns good.
we have the secretary, treasurer.
I nominate Misty.
I'll second that.
All right. Now, we were talking about obtaining legal counsel, and we asked Chad Nicholson from the Legal Defense Fund to be here tonight to present to the Highland Township Government Study Commission their scope of work and what that would look like, including costs. This is a complex process, and we, the Government Study Commission, are thankful for their expertise. Now, at this time, we would like to hand it over to Chad Nicholson.
Thanks, John, and thanks to the other government study commissioners. I'm Chad Nicholson with the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. I'm an organizer with Legal Defense Fund. Also have attorney Natalie Long with us here tonight as well. So thank you for the invitation to offer a retainer and scope of service to you folks. Just a little bit of background on us regarding home rule and other places. We have served at least 12 to 15 other communities at various parts of the home rule process over the years, including helping them get on the ballot, such as the process that you folks went through this spring, as well as assisting them with the study process, which you're now beginning to embark on, as well as the writing of the charter itself, if that's something that you choose to do later on after your study. So we have assisted a number of communities with this over the years. Our services are pro bono, which means that any phone calls or document preparation or things like that that we offer to you folks would be free. We offer legal, historical, and research advice and services but it's clear that we're not an advocacy or a lobbying organization. So we would be basically telling you and advising you on certain questions that you have about how the process is supposed to work. We would not be telling you what you should or shouldn't do, how you should write a charter if you choose to do that, how you conduct the process, things like that. But we are here to offer assistance if you choose to retain us about what other communities have done in the past, as well as the law. I know some of you have contacted me, you've begun to look through the law, and it's a quite complex set of statutes that I don't know what they were on, but some people in Harrisburg, conjured up back in the 70s, but it's not a very easy to read document. And so often communities come to us to help us make sense of that for them. So that's something that we could offer to you as well. You're obviously free to consider other consulting services. It's common for any government study commission such as yourself to consider consulting services. You can read that in the Home Rule handbook that's put out by the state. Usually folks have somebody that does guide them through the process. You don't have to. You're welcome to do it on your own. You're welcome to reach out and look for other assistance as well. I know of one government study commission that had a professor that actually served as counsel to them. So it's up to you in terms of how you folks want to do it. But I was contacted by somebody from the Government Study Commission to present the retainer here tonight, and we're happy to do that. So that's a summary of what our services would look like. Pro bono does not mean completely free. It does mean that if we did need to come up here at some point in the future, if you wanted, my services in person, we would need to have travel costs covered. So it's 50 cents a mile. It's in the retainer. You can read through it, but basically 50 cents a mile to have me come up, be in person at a meeting, as well things like filing fees or administrative cost copies, things like that we might need to do for document production would also need to be covered by the Government Study Commission. So that's the basic scope of services. It's pro bono, but that's that. If you enter into this retainer with us, the retainer itself costs $1. That's the amount necessary to actually enter into a binding legal arrangement, and then that creates attorney-client privilege between the Government Study Commission and the Legal Defense Fund. So I think that's most of it. I did bring copies of the retainer for each of you folks to read through if you want, just because I summarized it. And then before making a decision on whether or not to retain us or anybody else for that matter, you folks would need to hold public comment on that. So that you can talk about it, but would suggest that you hold public comment before you decide whether to retain us or anybody else. So.
I forgot to ask for public comment. Sorry about that. Is there any public comments?
I think you should retain them. They're good and they know what they're doing.
Is there any other public comment on
Other than that?
retaining CELDF?
Do you have to vote on this? Is it just for the people here that vote on it, or is it the whole community? Or-
Right
I
now,
don't
it's just
know.
public
Yeah.
comment whether we should
Okay.
retain CELDF
Okay.
or not.
Yeah. Or of any other questions that you might have too.
It doesn't have to go on a vote on election. This can be passed, okay.
Any other public comment?
All right.
I make a motion to retain CELDF.
I
second.
second.
I second it.
Yeah, I agree too.
Okay. Any opposed? Just to be clear.
No.
Okay. So we'll need a signature from the chairman on that.
Okay.
And then we'll need $1. And then we'll have our administrative director sign that as well, and get it back, a copy to you folks. We do advise that this is privileged. I mean, I basically summarized everything that's in it, but if you don't mind, I'll take the other copies back. But you will always have access to a copy of the retainer if you would like. If anybody else would like to see it, like from the community, they can make a formal written request to the Government Study Commission, because basically at this point, you folks are a government body. You're an agency that was duly elected by the electors of your township, and so you exist now as a functioning government body similar to a board of supervisors in some way. So you would be subject to open records requests and things like that. At this point, you can proceed with the meeting, or I'm happy to walk folks through some other parts of what the process may look like for you. That's often what communities do at this point, is to have somebody that's familiar with the process kind of give a more in-depth overview, but it's up to you.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could do that. You guys
Yeah,
agree?
he's tired of talking, go ahead.
I motion that he does motion.
All right.
Oh, boy.
I'll second
We
it.
have the $1.
Get a
Everyone
dollar.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to the chairman. I'm
Okay.
going to start taking random money from the
Yeah, and then
audience.
have my wallet. Fall in the wallet.
Can I grab a chair and sit up here with you folks somehow?
Yes.
Be careful, Chad, squeaks. I
Did
even
you-
had
that way
one
you
here.
can take it?
That's why I switched it.
You need us to move down.
That your special chair,
John?
Times are tough, you know.
I'm a mess around me and in front of me and everything.
Good.
Okay. Here is a draft agenda that we can kind of run through what the scope of work of the Government Study Commission is, as required by the state. So this is not CELDF at this point. I'm basically relaying information that is in state law. And I guess before I go any further, does anybody have any questions on what you're up to at this point, or do folks just want me to kind of blab for a little while?
I'm gonna blab for a little while.
Blab for a little bit. Okay. So, says number 1, review rules for the study commission, and then subheading under that is the Sunshine Law. As an elected body at this point, you are subject to what's called the Sunshine Law. It's a state law which lays out certain rules and procedures for all elected public agencies. That includes things like open records and things like that. Did you print those out, John?
Yes,
Print
I did.
copies? Okay. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things from here that are appropriate, I think, to you folks, and it would be good for you to read it all. It's great Friday night reading. But section 704.
What page?
It's page 4 on mine. It's section 704. So 704. Yep. It's open meetings. It says official action and deliberations by a quorum of the members of an agency shall take place at a meeting open to the public unless closed under section 707, 708, or 712. So basically means that any of your deliberations or any decisions that you make need to be at public meetings like this that have been properly advertised. The only time that you would have a closed meeting is if there is a legal challenge to something that you are doing, at which point you can go into what's called executive session. We haven't seen that in any of the government study commissions, but just the default is open at public meetings where you have your conversations and decisions are made, and that there's public comment available for all decisions that are made by the body. Section 705, the next one down, recording of votes. This is important for the Secretary Treasurer. It says in all meetings of agencies, the vote of each member who actually votes on any resolution and rule, order, regulation, ordinance, or the setting of official policy must be publicly cast, and in the case of roll call votes, recorded. So making sure that good detailed minutes are being kept. Section 706, next one down, says minutes of meetings, public records, and recordings of meetings. All of the minutes of meetings at the end of this process will be turned over to the township for safekeeping, and during that time, anybody that wishes to see minutes from meetings if they weren't here has to write a written request to the board, to the Government Study Commission, at which point you would send them the minutes. Any questions on those procedural issues? Okay. Next one, section 709. It's a couple of sections later. Just basically stating that any meetings that you have to be publicly advertised. So this meeting was properly advertised last week in advance. Later tonight or at the next meeting, whenever you choose to set your schedule of meetings, those will also have to be advertised in the paper as well. So we're happy to help write up the language for that, but just making sure that any meetings that you folks have to be open and they have to be publicly advertised in a newspaper that circulates in the township.
Hey, Chad, one question.
Yep.
As far as if somebody wanted to come, because we are open to get our minutes now, do they have to get permission? Does our right to know officer of the township have to get permission from our chairman to release them?
No, this goes through this body.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Section 710 just says rules and regulations for conduct of meetings. Generally, government study commissions operate pretty informally. You have to take formal votes on agency business, but otherwise, you can come up with resolutions for how you want to interact with the public or things like that. but a lot of times folks don't actually come up with the resolutions until they become necessary. But you are free to come up with operating rules for interactions among yourselves as well as with the public. And then, let's see, section 710, public participation. It's just reiterating the fact that there does have to be public comment available to anybody in the audience that does want to comment on agency business before action is taken. So just making sure there's a public comment period at all meetings. That is, section 11 does say recording devices are allowed, and that's all I really wanted to highlight from here. I think that's most relevant to your business. Any questions on that, or?
Yeah, I have a question on
Yep.
getting back to the rights to know stuff. Are we allowed to charge for like copies and stuff? Like if somebody wants a copy, are we allowed to charge for making the copies?
Yeah, usually the test on that is whether it's unduly burdensome, but that obviously isn't any help from the state. And so if it gets to be, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pages, then you would have authority generally to charge, you know, just the cost of the copies. But at this point, there's not that much to charge, and so it's generally free. Or it can also be electronically transmitted as well. And so whoever the secretary treasurer is and or the chairman should have an email address and or phone number available for people to call or email to request this information.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on the Sunshine Act? You folks are an elected public agency, and so it may seem a little weird, but that's how the meetings operate. Wanted to run through some of the language from the Home Rule statutes. Copies. Just to lay out what the state defines your scope of work as.
Thank you. Thanks.
Who has already had the misfortune of looking through the tortured Home Rule statute at all? All right, sorry about that. So I tried to highlight the most relevant stuff from that statute to what you folks will be up against in the next few months at least. So things that are relevant to what you should and shouldn't be doing. So section 2916, that's what we're doing tonight. It says the first meeting of the commission. It says you have to hold your first meeting within 15 days, and at this meeting you have to elect vice chairman, a chairman, and then fix hours and place of meeting and adopt rules. So that's going to be later tonight, is my understanding, the hours and places of meeting and things like that. You've already elected the chairman and the vice chairman, and you also elected a secretary treasurer. It says section B there, quorum. A majority of the members of the commission shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. So a majority of people for a quorum, but no recommendation of the commission shall have any legal effect unless adopted by a majority of the whole number of the members of the commission. So to make big decisions, there's got to be at least 4 people voting in favor of something. So a majority of the whole numbers. Section 2917, vacancies, that's the next one down. If the 7th member cannot fulfill the duties, that creates a vacancy on the Government Study Commission, at which point it says you folks have the authority to appoint another properly qualified voter that lives within the township. So it's your prerogative to appoint somebody in a similar way that boards of supervisors have the authority to appoint supervisors in the event of a vacancy. It's up to you how you would go about that process if it becomes an issue. I don't know that needs to be decided tonight, but you can just appoint somebody. A lot of times in other commissions that have dealt with vacancies, they've had an application process or something else that they've used to try to vet candidates and things like that. But that's your authority to decide how you want to do it. How do you want to go about the appointment process if that becomes something that has to happen? Section 2918, this is the meatiest paragraph in the whole thing, and this is basically telling you what your duty is as an elected member of the Government Study Commission for the next months of your life. It says the Government Study Commission shall study the form of government of the municipality and to compare it with other available forms under the laws of this Commonwealth and determine whether or not in its judgment the government could be strengthened or made more clearly responsible or accountable to the people, or whether its operation could become more economical or efficient under a changed form of government. So you have to study your current form. You're currently a second-class township under the Municipal Code of Pennsylvania. And then you get to decide, basically your study is going to be giving you the opportunity to decide whether a different form of government for the township would help better meet the needs of the people and help better meet more efficient and economical needs for the township. So that's what the charge is. You first have to study it, take public comment, you'll have to hold hearings, things like that, And then at the end of that, at the end of your study, you get to decide whether your second-class township is currently working for you as it is and that you don't need to do anything else, or if you decide that you want to make tweaks at that point, then you can work on writing a home rule charter, changing a form of municipality. Any questions on that? Because that's the most important part of your job. Okay. 2919, compensation and personnel. Just basically says that all government study commission members serve without compensation, so you folks aren't getting paid, but shall be reimbursed by the municipality for necessary expenses incurred in the performance of their duties. So if travel for some reason becomes an expense or something like that, you can be reimbursed for those types of things, but you will not otherwise be getting paid. So basically necessary expenses to carry out your role and your mission can be reimbursed. Section B, this is basically what happened tonight. It says appointment and compensation of personnel within the limits of the appropriations and other public and privately contributed funds and services made available to it. The commission may appoint one or more consultants and clerical and other assistants to serve at the pleasure of the commission. So it's basically what happened tonight. You folks appointed the Legal Defense Fund. You have the authority to break that relationship with us at any time if you don't like the services that we're providing, and you can find other consultants. So that's all within your scope. Section 2920, hearings and public forums. The Government Study Commission shall hold one or more public hearings. So you're required by law to hold at least one public hearing within the community on what you're actually studying. What's happened in other places we've worked usually is that there's at least two. They usually hold one formal hearing at the end of the study process where they present their findings to the community. And then if they choose to write a home rule charter, there's usually a hearing later on during the charter writing process to solicit more feedback from the public and to help the public understand what it is that you're writing and doing. So all meetings are open to the public. People can come anytime, but hearings are usually a more large advertised affair and where you actually make a formal presentation about everything that you've been doing in your other meetings. Let's see. General rule, section 2921, report of findings. You have a total of 18 months to complete the process. You have 9 months to do the study. So you can take up to 9 months to study the second class township code and other aspects of municipal government. You have up to 9 months to do that. If at the end of that 9 months, or any time before that, you could do it in the next month or two if you are motivated. At the end of that process, if you decide you don't want to write a home rule charter, then everything goes back to normal. You guys dissolve, you no longer hold your posts, and that's it. If you do want to write a home rule charter, you do have an additional 9 months to write the charter after the study period. So this thing can take up to 18 months if you want it to. We've seen it get done much quicker in other places as well. Grant Township last year took about 3 months during the summer. Same happened in Blaine Township in 2009 where we worked and assisted their government study commission as well. So this can take a while. It can be quite quick. A lot of it depends on the commitment and the level of, the number of meetings and things that you folks hold over the next 2 months. Section B, list of resources used. That's something that you'll do at the end of the process. You just have to account for everything that you're using through this process. So I see some second class township codes up here. There may be other resources you choose to look into, other home rule charters that you study. Just make sure you keep an appendix, a list of resources of everything that you use during this process. Section D under that, 2921D, it just says all records, reports, tapes, minutes shall be turned over to the municipal clerk or secretary at the end of your process. So as soon as the study is done and or the home rule charter is written, everything gets turned over to the township. That's most of the stuff I wanted to highlight from here. Any questions on the statutory language? Very exciting stuff. You guys look bored already. It must be a long summer. Okay, number 2, back on the agenda, schedule for work. You may do that later if you wanted to move the scheduling to the end of the meeting, but I just wanted to give folks a sense of what that looked like in other places. Let's see, these are from the Grant Township final report. You can pass those down. And these are from the Blaine Township final report. Thank you. Okay, so this is just to give you a sense of what it's looked like in other places. Similar sized townships. Blaine Township was about 500 people, so similar to Highland. Grant Township's about 700 people, so similar to Highland as well. You'll have to do a final report like this at the end of the process regardless, but just looking at, I'm looking at the Grant one right now. Number and types of meetings. They held 10 meetings total. That started on June 8th of last year. That was their organizational meeting. They held 2 public hearings, and they finished up the process, including the charter writing, by early September. So they did 10 meetings basically over the summer to do the hearings, the study, the charter writing, everything like that. And then you can see the Blaine Township one. They held a few more meetings, about 20, but over the same period of time. So the difference in many ways was the length of the home rule charters that they presented. Grant Township's was quite simple, the charter that they wrote. It was about 8 pages, and it just basically tweaked a couple aspects of municipal life. They wanted more public participation and things like that written into their charter. In Blaine Township, they went big. They took the opportunity to write about a 200-page constitution that dealt with all aspects of municipal life, from waste to roads and street repair to agriculture policy to things like that. So that's why they had a number of more meetings, was they actually went into a lot of aspects of municipal life, and they made big sweeping changes through their charter. So that's the difference between those two. Both of those took place over the same period of time, though, but the Blaine Township people basically just met a few times a week over the entire summer. You can also see, we'll talk more budget. Actually, I'm going to save the second page for both of those to the end for the budget agenda item. But we'll run through that and talk about what the budget actually looks like, how that's got to interplay, who pays for it, and things like that. So, but just to give you a sense on the scope of meetings, that's what happened in Blaine and in Grant. Other places have taken, a couple of years. They take the full 18 months to do it. So it's really up to you and your prerogative in terms of what you want to do. It's all in your hands. Committees. Those, you can form committees tonight if you want, but usually what's happened in other places is they form committees around the study of the second-class township code. So basically it means actually securing the materials that you want to use to do your study, for which the second-class township, you'll have to use that. There's also home rule handbooks. I know a few have been floating around town that go into more of kind of the research and the theory and the history behind home rule. You can also look at other home rule charters, things like that. You can talk with other home rule government study commissions. We're happy to put you in touch with other folks that we've worked with in the past. It's going to be up to you. But generally with this study, the way that other communities have broken it down is they form into committees of 2, and they take certain sections of the second-class township code. And so that would likely be the next meeting if that's the path that you want to follow. And then, group 1 will take the first third of the code, group 2 will take the second third of the code, group 3 will take the third third. And then they'll look through it and say, what parts of this seem to meet the needs of Highland Township? What parts of this don't seem to meet our needs? What parts of this should be changed? And then you'll have those discussions as a group and, talk it through, what parts you like, what parts you don't. But they usually split it up because very few people are interested in reading the entire second-class township code. And so it's helpful to split that up into committees. So that could happen tonight. You could also form other committees tonight if you feel like you need to. There's been finance committees formed in other communities, public education outreach committees that have been formed. A lot of times those don't become necessary until later on in the process, but you do have the authority to appoint any committees that you want to tonight. In terms of materials, I would suggest at this point that you guys have some discussion in terms of what you already have, what you need, and who's going to secure the materials. Like what is needed for you to complete the study and actually get into this stuff.
Like the books, I think we've already have those.
Does everybody from the Government Study Commission have one?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
We have the second town class and also the handbook.
Okay, so then everybody's got one of these too.
Yeah.
I think we also have a copy of the Grant Township,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
the Grant
Copy.
Township Charter. And if anybody needs a copy, I also have a copy of the Elk Township Charter.
I'd like copies of both of those.
Okay.
So you folks have the grant one already, is that right? You
We have the
distribute
grant
to
and
the
I
folks
have the
and
elk.
Okay. does anybody want to talk with other folks in those areas, or how do you want to facilitate that?
I'd personally like to talk to both Grant, and maybe Elk. Elk, when I just talked to this township secretary. They've been there for a while. They've only actually consulted their home charter one time, the whole time she's been there for like 9 years. So I'm not so sure how helpful Elk Township will be to Highland. So maybe definitely Grant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should I wait to hear from you, or do you want me to contact them and see if they're willing to talk with you? Or?
I would like you to contact Grant and see if they'd be willing to talk to us.
And how would you want to facilitate that? Would you want them to get on a conference call when you're at a meeting, or would you want to actually have somebody come up here and talk with you folks, or what's?
I think a conference call would be,
I think that would
Yeah.
be the
Okay.
best way.
Yeah.
Conference call.
We gotta figure out a better phone, something better than
Oh, they
Comcast
have-
to do it on.
we have it here.
Yeah, it's Comcast. It's gonna do the same thing as it's done before, cut you off in the middle of.
Maybe.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does that have to be open to the public when we do a conference call?
It doesn't have to be, if they're just receiving information.
Okay.
So as long as it's not leading to official action, if it's just a part of the information gathering process,
Okay.
and then the results are shared as a part of that, that can be set up, on a conference call on a different night. But there can't be any deliberations made or any official decisions made. It's just receiving information.
Okay.
Yep. And so maybe the best way to facilitate that would be to come up with a list of questions, once you start studying this stuff, that you would want to ask, and make sure those questions are public, and then you could ask those questions to the Government Study Commission folks from Grant Township at a different time, and then report back with what you hear from them.
Okay.
We can do that.
Okay. Anything else on the materials? And you may find more as you start digging into this stuff as well.
Yeah. That's what I can think of. Yes.
Yep.
Do you have anything? You guys got anything else?
So, I'm gonna bump down to number 4 quickly, the budget. It's somewhat ambiguous in the Home Rule Code regarding how the budget stuff plays out, but it's generally agreed that the municipality is on the hook for any expenses incurred by the Government Study Commission. That's what the law says, is that it's up to the municipality to actually reimburse the Government Study Commission for its duties. Obviously, that becomes a negotiation between the Government Study Commission and the municipality. So what's happened in most other places is they come up with a draft budget based on, the purchasing of these books, the purchasing of these things, that type of stuff, how many copies they think they're going to need of stuff like that, how many times they may want me to come up here, those types of things, come up with a draft budget, and then present that to the supervisors at the next supervisors meeting and say, look, we're meeting, it's our role to actually communicate with you, talk to you about what our expected budget is, and then we'll negotiate with you. And you can present that to them, and they can let you know if they have concerns, and it's kind of a back and forth. So it's more of a mutual process. At the same time, it does fall to them to come up with the costs if needed, assuming they're not exorbitant. Also, especially in Grant Township, they decided that they did not want the municipality to actually bear any of those costs, and so they did private fundraising on the side, where they asked people in the community to donate money to the effort. That money then went into an account with the township that reimbursed the Government Study Commission. So you have that option if you don't want to put that burden onto the township to do fundraising, and that money can then go specifically to the township, make sure it's earmarked and that there's a place for it within the township budget to then reimburse what you guys are doing here. You can see some sample budgets from Grant and from Blaine. Blaine's has got the slightly larger text. You can see CELDF's costs. Most of that was due to the travel for that over those 20 meetings, and so that was higher than, say, in Grant Township. And then you can see the newsletters. There were very few costs there because of people that donated to actually cover the printing costs. They actually got copies of the Constitution, Pennsylvania and the U.S. Constitutions, and the Declaration of Independence, things like that they use to aid their study. That's also something you could consider. And then they got some sample home rule charters to consider, like you folks are doing as well. And then the final printing, number 9 of the home rule charter, that was a relatively significant cost just because it was such a large charter. And then the township office donated the use of office space and things like that. So that was their total budget. You can see grants is significantly less because there were fewer meetings. The charter itself was significantly less. But you can use this as kind of a guidepost as you begin coming up with your own budget that you would prepare for the township at the next meeting.
That money that, like, we raise money and everything, that has to come directly, whatever the money that we get has to come directly to the township, or can the committee have their own, set up their own checking account?
It's got to go through the township because the township's responsible for it. Yep.
Okay. Then they'll have to set up the fund for,
So in Grant Township, they set up just a separate bank account, basically, that was for Government Study Commission money, is what they did. Or they just had a separate tab on their Excel spreadsheet, but they worked with the secretary to make sure that the accounting was in line, and then any donations would go to the township and then would reimburse the Government Study Commission.
okay, good. And that's what some of our, and talking, that's what some of our funds were, is to raise it and
Any cost or any questions on these budgets or other things? And if you keep it simple, you know, if they will probably look similar to this in terms of this is the minimum, you know, not the minimum, but this is, you know, basically what it's looked like in a number of other communities. But if you get into this and you want to study this thing for 9 months, you may come up with more costs and more things if you start, you know, doing a lot more research or bringing in other consultants or things like that. So. Okay. Is anybody, I would imagine that would fall to the secretary treasurer, but it would be useful to have somebody begin working up some sort of a budget and begin putting something together for the next township meeting and having that.
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, the next kind of, I think the biggest thing usually on the organizing meeting is coming up with the place of business, like where the meetings are going to be held, and coming up with an outline or a skeleton of when you expect to hold meetings. You don't have to do that tonight. You can kick it to the next meeting if you want, but it's helpful to at least put a few on the schedule tonight so that, you know, when you advertise them that that you folks can begin working together, coordinating your schedules and things like that. So I think a couple of things come into play with that. Number one is, you know, when it works for folks' schedules, whether it's going to be weeknights or weekends. Sometimes it's helpful to do back-to-back meetings, so, you know, you get a week off in between and you do 2 meetings in a row on 2 different nights, but that's really going to be up to you to negotiate that. The other major question is space, where you intend to hold the meetings. Oftentimes, the municipalities offer the township building to the Government Study Commission. That's something that you would have to confirm with the secretary before advertising the meetings. So, I don't know, those are some questions for you guys to consider.
yeah.
Is anybody able to get a hold of anybody outside of James City for like the Sportsman's Club or?
I don't know. I couldn't get a hold of anybody for Sportsman's Club.
We can get hold of Brent for Highland Sportsman's and Snow Seekers.
I don't know who to get a hold of for
There's
Snow
one
Seekers.
thing I'd like to do is to keep these meetings away from the fire department,
Yes, I agree.
because I'm bringing it up to you guys, because there's an awful lot of rumors going around of these secret meetings, and they're actually fire hall functions that's going on down there, and we're supposedly having these secret meetings down there. A couple weeks ago, we had a fundraiser for the fire department, Swish and Swig. down there. Everybody's seen a lot of cars parked out front of the fire hall. Automatically, rumors are flying around town. They're having their secret meetings up there again. And it was a fundraiser for the fire department. So I'd like to keep it away from the fire department, try to keep it at the township, and have other meetings like over in Highland and Russell City, if that's all right with you guys.
It's fine with me, Bill. I think if we're gonna have it in James City, as long as everything's copacetic, I think we'd be better off having it at the Township Building.
I
Right.
do too.
Yeah.
Because there's so many times I've had people, supervisors, walking down the street, there's a secret meeting.
And I would like to, if we could do it, if we could get a hold of Mr. Gillespie, if we could have at least 1 or 2 meetings out in Highland or D Young to get them
Right.
people involved, I think that would be a really good thing to do.
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Brent's supposed to be looking into it, and I do have a number, did you ask Snow
If I still
Seeker?
have Brent's number or not.
Because I have a number if you need it.
If not, we can get probably hold of Jim Wolf,
I already
because
got the
he
contact.
takes care of the
Yeah,
snow
he gave me
seekers
the
too.
contact.
Okay.
So,
You said you did contact Brent?
No, cause, yeah, Brent I did, and then Bill was gonna talk, but I have a contact for Snow Seekers too.
I guess it's the worst thing, if people are worried about something happening in their buildings, it's best to have it at a
Right.
public building.
Do we want to figure out some dates on?
I think, the third Thursday of the month,
Just
Okay.
one week a month? Or do you wanna make it the first and third?
maybe the first and the third Thursdays of the month,
I think 2 Thursdays a month would be great.
2 Thursdays a month.
Okay.
What do you think, Matt?
So
Well,
the
that's fine,
first
I mean,
and
we
third
can get our
Thursdays
work
of the
started,
month.
we can always back our work down, we can see how it goes, you know?
For June,
Yeah.
it would be June 2nd and June 16th.
Yeah.
If we kept it at the first and the third, it would keep it kind of regular.
There's no first Thursday in July though.
The first Thursday would be the 7th.
Oh, hello. Okay.
21st.
21st.
There's every month has a first.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know what that. How far ahead do you want to go? I mean, do you want to go into July or just?
I think
do-
we should go 2 months at a time, 2nd and the
Right.
16th of June, and the 7th and the 21st of July.
Okay. And at the same time, 2 o'clock or 7
At
o'clock.
7.
Or,
Yes. That'd make it easier for me.
Me too.
Because I work on Thursdays and I get out at 6, so I can make it here by 6:30.
Do we want to continue to make sure that we can have it here until we can get
Yes.
yeah,
I
I'll
think
talk
other
to somebody,
avenues for
yeah.
outside of James City? We want to get it in Highland and in Russell City, but right now we know we can have the township on
Right.
those Thursdays. So for now, we'll do it at the township until we can get further
I think that's great.
confirmation at the other facilities.
And that's,
I can contact tomorrow or so and see if we can have them those days or run those days by them.
Okay.
The schedule is obviously yours to decide. The reason that folks backloaded meetings in Grant and in Blaine Townships was they did a pretty intensive study early on, and they had, I don't know, 4 meetings probably within a couple of weeks where they really got into that to try to help them understand whether or not they thought they would be moving towards the charter or not. The only reason that they did that was because if you do write a charter, if you end up writing a charter, and if you wanted to vote on it this fall, that would have to be done, the process, including the study on the charter writing, usually by the end of August, early September. Of course, again, you have 9 months, and so the only time pressure is yours. But, this schedule right here is completely fine, but if you get into the study and you're like, ooh, we, are interested in moving on the charter writing stuff, you may be a bit behind at that point, at least for November. You can always put it on next May's ballot as well, if you end up writing a charter over the winter. So it really depends on how quickly you want to dig in, and how, or if you want to take it more leisurely, it's up to you guys.
Okay, 'cause a lot of us have already started digging and
Yep.
reading it over.
Also regarding, because so these meetings are going to have to be advertised, and you'll have to note where the meetings are in the advertisements that go in the newspaper, and so the ads can't really get drawn up until you confirm places and things like that. But
And that advertisement is within 3 days of the.
yeah, and that meetings need to be advertised 3 days prior to when the meeting's going to be held. And then, from my perspective, you know, I'm happy to do conference calls or work with folks from afar as well. But if you want me at these meetings, I will also need to be advised of that. I think most of these are free for me right now, but those are, you know, budgetary things that you would have to decide as well, because it will be some cost to get me up here. And the sooner I know, the better, so I can block it off. But it's up to you guys.
You were mentioning digging in. Are you saying that maybe 2 meetings a month aren't enough, or?
Well, I mean, they may be. It depends on how quickly you want to get through the study. Like, if you get in there and you read through it and you say, this is fine, we're actually content with the second-class township as it is, then, you know, there's not really reason to have many more meetings, and you may be done. You'll have to hold a public hearing. You have to hold at least one by statute. But, you know, at the end of those 4 meetings, you could be done with the process and say, we're fine. If you get to the end of those 4 meetings and you haven't started writing the charter at that point, you do decide to write the charter, then that gives you, you know, a pretty short time frame in August if you wanted to try to write it to get it put up in November. But again, if you don't get it up for the November ballot, then, you know, it can go on May. So it's up to you guys. I mean, you could, if you wanted to tonight, dig in and actually probably create committees and say, all right, we're going to start working on the study between now and the next meeting.
Okay. And what you suggest is the one, I don't know if it's Grant, but a group of 2 pick the first 1/3, and the second group, the second third of the code book.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they just kind of went through the page numbers, and I forget what it, I think one ended at the Shade Tree Commission and started at the Energy one. But yeah, you guys would just divide it up. I mean, you can look at it right now if you want to form committees.
Well, why don't we try and cram again? We have all read the book.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I can't speak for everybody, but John, I think you could even divide us up right now. Say somebody take 1/3 of the book.
I've already
Yeah,
started
who-
on the first
Cause
one.
I know that
Yeah.
township, I know the code 1803 through 1805 by heart.
So you guys want to do that then?
Yes, I
Pick
think.
3 different
Yeah.
I
groups?
think we
Amy's
should.
got the
There's
first
going to be
half.
one that's
I-
off.
What it was,
I'll
I know
take
them by heart
part of
because
the
I read
first
them
one.
before. Because
I'll
there's
take the
other
first third.
people in the community.
I'll be with you.
Okay, Misty, I'll do the
Supervisors,
first.
You
I
want to
should
read?
say, too.
You
Well,
wanna take
John,
part with me,
well,
or
I
what?
mean,
Stomp
let's
on
make a motion that we're
1803
going to
down
actually
through.
break the book apart.
And
Being the chairman, why don't we make a
Because we're
motion?
not
Yeah, let's-
getting paid.
Okay, let's make a motion to do that. Who would take the first?
I will
So
second your
break it
motion.
Well,
in there.
we're gonna make a motion first that we're gonna do this,
Okay,
and then we'll break it down, and we'll talk amongst ourselves to
Okay.
see who wants what,
okay.
and then we'll clarify that, we'll make a motion who's gonna take that. That way we're legit.
And the
Okay.
schedule.
Okay, sounds good, Matt.
That's yours.
I mean, why don't we just do it real, this is my opinion, why don't we do it real simple? It's easier because you two are in the same household. Whichever third you want, let's start with you guys. You guys are more versed with the fire
Right.
department code. And I can't, out of my mind, spit out which half that's in.
Yeah,
I mean, is that in the, towards the back or the middle?
it's towards the middle of it.
Okay, so why don't you guys, I mean, we think about it, take the middle, which it doesn't matter, we can all read. The 2 of us are gonna take this, we're gonna come up and find our findings, we're gonna talk about it amongst ourselves at the next meeting. I mean, to me, which half would you guys like to dig?
I wanna do like the first
Which half
part.
you want?
I've already started in on it.
I would like to.
First,
Matt,
first
if you
third?
don't mind, because we're in the same household, I'm kind of like to be separated.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying so
She doesn't
then,
wanna have to read them, you know.
then it doesn't look like, because we're in the same household, we're
Yeah,
trying for
I'm
the
sorry,
same thing.
I'm sorry.
I think if we separate the 2 of us because we are in the same household, it might be better.
Okay.
Okay, you're divorced.
Bill, why don't I take the middle with you?
All right,
That way you have a fresh set of eyes on it.
okay, sounds good.
Which
You
half?
guys are doing the front,
That's
you and
what
Misty.
it is, but, yeah.
You
Yes.
guys are doing the middle?
Guess,
Yep.
no, you
You
and I
guys
are
do
doing
the
the
end.
middle.
Oh, okay, middle, okay.
Does everybody know where those actually begin and end, or?
Oh, no, we'll have to decide to find that out.
Might be nice to know.
How many pages are there? We're just divided
Let's
by
see.
3.
There's actually 37 sections.
All right, so maybe do 37 divided by 3.
It's 12.3.
All right, so like 12 sections of 12 and a half. Well, that'd be a little too. Let's decide what that is. 12. You said 12.3. Oh wait, 12.
Anybody know exactly like how many pages that actually is?
It's 12.1.
I mean, these just go by sections.
Yeah, they are. If you go in the back, in the section.
So how about the first? It'd be,
Pages back here.
could be up to 12. Section 12. 12.1. Be the first section, and then the second section would be
13 to 26. I think we ought to do
26.
pages. That seems like
yeah to
the first section, first third is
about
that
25.7.
That'd be pretty close.
And then, because in the third section could be 26.1 to
The 36.
To
or
37.2.
37.2.
Yeah, it'd be real close.
26.1 to 37.2.
No, wait. is
Was
that
the
in
first one I
middle?
said?
That one was in the middle, right? Yeah.
Oh, right here, 25. Okay. From 13 to 25.7.
Yeah.
First third was a. Okay, went up to.
So you get 18.1 there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're saying to.
Whatever you leave off, just call JP and we'll pick it up from there.
So what do you have there? What is that 13 to 25.7 you have?
It divided with that.
Matt, you have to do it.
Hold on, 2/3. Yes, 25.7.
Misty, where would we end up?
Yeah, I got
12.1.
12.1.
All right, yeah, 12.1. Okay.
Just seems like you guys taking a little bit longer to do it.
Yeah, because then it goes right to 13.1. That's why I was getting confused.
Yeah.
All right.
John, why don't you make a motion for that? We'll call it out, then we'll either agree or disagree.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to separate it into 3 groups. The first one, section 1 through 12.1. The second section for second group would be 13 to 25.7. And then the third group would be 26.1 to 37.2.
I'll second it.
Any opposed?
Anyone?
No.
Any opposed?
Oh, no. No. Why? Oh. Oh.
You're writing my name there.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I got it.
Good job, buddy.
So at the next meeting, then we'll discuss what,
Yes.
Did you figure out which groups are good?
yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna put the names in with those groups. Motion on
Okay.
that too.
Misty and Amy the first, third, Matt and Bill second, third, JP and Lloyd third.
The secretary's got it, don't worry about it.
All right.
So you've got the names.
Yeah,
Motion those names just for the minutes.
yeah. I motioned, who's the first to start?
Matt and Bill.
Matt and Bill,
Looking at 2/3, second third?
Lloyd and me for the second, third, and the third.
No.
Okay. All right, Matt and Bill for the first, third. Oh wait. All right, you had it different. Okay. First third is Misty and Amy. The second third is Matt and Bill, and the third is me and Lloyd.
I second the motion to study the chapters.
Any opposed?
So probably the next biggest hurdle what we gotta talk about, now that we know that we're gonna do a little bit of studying, is to set up a next meeting. And we'll make a motion on, we'll talk about it here for a little bit and try and make a motion or come up with an idea when we're gonna have our next meeting, John,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Yeah. So I'd like to motion that time for the next meeting be June. What days do we think of? On possibly like June 2nd.
Well, for now, let's hold it here. In my opinion, let's do it here at the township until we can see if we can get a hold of the other ones for Russell City and Highland.
Right.
Oh, hold on a second. Brent just got back to me. How soon do we need it? What are you guys thinking about for?
June 23rd, 7:00 p.m.
For now, let's get our feet wet up here, because we're gonna have to advertise that anyways,
Right.
you know, and that's, I'm glad Mr. Gillespie got back to us, but that way we can,
We can do that. That'll give us the next meeting up here,
Yes.
and then we can decide on that one. She just got a hold of him for that date, and we'll discuss that at the next meeting.
We'll
if
see
that
if it
date's-
goes through.
Right.
I second Matt's motion to have our next meeting here, June 2nd, at the James City Municipal Building at 7:00 p.m.
So it's the only meeting you're putting on tonight, and then you're going to do research for other dates at other places.
Right.
I mean, because right now I'm thinking it's best if we can try and get it out to other parts of Highland Township. If we just do it like a meeting by meeting thing, we'll make a motion at that time if we think, if everything goes through, like you said, we might come here, we might not deem that we want to follow through on this, we'll have our closing meeting. But why don't we just, we'll do our research, we'll come, we'll talk about it, and if we deem it's necessary to have another meeting, then we'll try and get out to different places in Highland Township.
Okay.
For the study, I mean, just a reminder as well, as you folks are reading through it, keeping section 2918 in mind, because that's kind of what you're supposed to be doing during the study, which is to compare it with other forms, to other charters, which are going to be circulated as well, and determine whether or not it could be strengthened or made more accountable to the people, or made more economical efficient. So those are kind of the questions that you're keeping in mind as you're doing the study.
26-1 is like 37-2.
Right now, that's our main goal, is to get everything.
John,
up
do you
and
think
back
it'd be
to
a
the
good
people.
thing to make a motion that we should try and study the other study commission's findings, especially grants and Elks? So that way we have it on the minutes that we're also gonna take that into consideration and use it for part of our thing.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to study the charters for Elk and charter for Grant Township.
A second.
I agree.
And anybody that needs a copy of those, we can get you copies.
For my knowledge, should I plan a conference call June 2nd? Do you want to just handle the meeting on your own, in person? How would we decide that right now so I can plan my life as well?
You guys wanna just
If I have
hold
one.
it with us, since we're only studying and getting information, you wanna hold it to just us guys?
I think you're right.
See what they went through, get all that stuff,
Yeah.
and bring it up at the meeting.
Let's do a little bit of research so we're more knowledgeable to see how we're gonna go. And that way, like I said, if we need to get Mr. Chad involved, then we'll get a hold of him.
Go back and second JP's motion about the Elk Grant Township codes.
All right, I'll second that motion.
Any opposed?
And I'll make a motion to hold this, the conference call to us. That way we can learn more about it.
You have a question, Doctor?
Excuse me, is there public comment open at any time through these discussions? I guess, I guess just
Sure.
kind of just, as you're mentioning going to different areas, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned the conference call, something you need to keep in mind is if you go to the, or the snow seekers and you do decide to do a conference call, you may not have that availability
Yeah,
to do
reception.
that. So
Right.
it's something, as a suggestion, you might want to keep in mind
Okay.
as you plan your meetings, if it's gonna be, so it might be something to take into
You're
consideration.
right.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because definitely out the Sportsman, we won't have that option.
No, there's nothing going on.
So I mean, you go do your scheduling on that.
Try it out, or-
Keep in mind.
I mean, I think it's a big thing, if we can get as knowledgeable about which direction we're gonna go, and then hopefully we can get public comment. If we're lucky enough to get out to these places in Highland, hopefully we'll get public comment, we'll get people showing up, because I think that's what we're after anyways.
Bill, how's the cell service out that way?
Okay.
Spotty.
On a good day, it's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Right at the snow seekers, it's okay. It's
Okay.
good.
So the only place we'd really have a problem with the conference calls is the Sportsman's Club.
Okay. At this time, I'd also like to move for a vacancy. If we have a vacancy and Erin does not, so move to make a motion. If Erin does not reply to our social media connection,
By the next time.
that we will do this, we will vote on this vacancy board at next meeting.
I'll second that motion.
I said that too. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so too.
He really did bring up a good question.
Yeah.
Is public opinion open at any time during the discussion?
Today, yes.
Today? or
Yeah,
any
in the
time?
agenda, we're gonna do like the business and then public comment at the end, and then the announcements, and then an adjournment, but yeah, public comment's open.
So, yeah, usually, I mean, there was public comment at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah.
And then there'll be public comment at the end. Is that?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Next.
Also, in regards to Misty doing the budget and report at the next township meeting, I think that was formally, or was that formally decided? Was there a motion on that? There was.
Yes. JP made the motion, Lloyd seconded.
That's most of what I have for tonight. Just organizing and business stuff.
And with the meeting rules.
Meeting rules, yeah. Did we, I motioned that we use Robert's rules for the meeting rules?
I'll second that motion.
Any opposed?
Motion carried.
And then, manager. Not yet. Now, the committee, with the committee bylaws, would we have, Chad, I was gonna ask you, would we have to make up a bylaw, or would we just be incorporated under what's already written under the chapter that you were mentioning earlier?
You mean for how the Government Study Commission operates?
Yeah.
Most don't. You can if it becomes necessary in terms of bylaws for how you make this. I mean, you've already decided on Robert's rules,
Right.
and there needs to be motions made, that are required by the statute on agency business. But other than that, a lot of times they just operate informally. I was in another community one time, and there was a couple of louder folks that would come to the meetings, and so they developed resolutions to make sure that there was order in running the meetings. But they didn't really deal with that until it became necessary. So usually, I mean, the Government Study Commission is governed by the statute, which says, you got to have a vice chair and a chair and those things, and make motions and record them. And then the Sunshine Act, which also outlines what you can and can't do as an elected body. That usually provides enough structure. If you want to have other bylaws or things, you are welcome to, but most of the time they don't.
Okay.
I
Thank
think
you.
we should table bylaws until it becomes necessary.
Yeah. I
If
motion
and
that-
until.
Yeah. Now we're at a motion for appoint committees. We're gonna do that now, or?
I thought we already did that.
We did that. We-
Oh, okay, all right.
I think the only other committee that we might need is our public,
The public information one?
the public information. That way, when we are funneling all of our advertisements through one person, one avenue is the one that's going to do the advertisement, that kind of stuff, to make sure it's done, confirm it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I got you.
I really do
Right.
think that we should appoint somebody to be personally responsible for that.
And in case there's a right to know or anything like that, I think this person should be functioning for us to handle all of our public information. If people want information, how to steer them in the right way or something like that.
Okay. I motion to nominate the committee members maybe for the public information.
Who?
Tom Marzetti. If you'd be willing to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
I second that motion.
Speak like for right to knows and things like that, since he's not on the board, stuff can't go through an unelected member. Like
Okay.
stuff has got to go through the elected members for right to knows and stuff like that. So, I mean, it sounds like what you'd be asking Tom to do is to distribute or disseminate information. Is that right?
For-
Is that the purpose, or is there something else?
For our advertisement, make sure that that's done to confirm our advertisement, that our meetings are advertised. If there is like public comment, that kind of stuff from our media, they would talk to Tom Marzetti and he would be our liaison.
Okay. I mean, you're gonna have to just watch what information is being asked for from him if he's not elected. So he can't be speaking for the Government Study Commission
Correct.
without specific direction from the Government Study Commission about what he's saying or distributing. And so there's gotta be accountability, from a legal perspective from him to you.
Okay.
And that, if there's official business or open records or things like that, that it's not going through somebody who's not elected, that it would be going through you folks. And so figuring out what that relationship looks like, and I think clarifying what the roles are is gonna be necessary.
I think let's just keep it right to just advertising meetings and everything. And if there's anything like that, everybody has emails. Have them email one or two people if they have any to know or anything, raise to know. That way, just keep them.
Chad, were you saying like a committee member would have to do that?
For right to know, or
advertise?
anything
For
like
rights to
that,
know.
yeah, it has to come through, and I think it'd be good to designate who that's gonna be tonight, whether it's the chair or the secretary treasurer. But if there's right to know, or if there's any questions about the goings-on of this organization, that has to come through the elected members, not through somebody who's not elected.
Okay.
What about like correspondence, like if someone wants to hand Tom their comments of what they would like to be put in the charter, something like that would be okay?
Sure,
Or
as
any
long as
letters?
I mean, if you're kind of having somebody who's somebody in the community that's receiving comment and
Yes.
things from other folks, as long as it's getting back to you, yes. I mean, Tom's not making any decisions. It sounds like he's facilitating information flow.
Correct.
So we have to come up with
So
someone that's
define
gonna
that then.
distribute the information. If there is anything asking the board confidential information, who would we like for that to be?
Their chair. I make the motion maker to our chair.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
I second it.
Chad, when they advertise, do they go through Christie again, or can they put the ad in now?
The legal advertisements
Yeah.
still go through the municipal secretary. I
that's what I
assume
thought.
that the advertisements they were talking about was bringing people out to meetings and spreading the word. That's what I assumed. But the
Yes.
legal
Yes.
advertisements have got to go through the secretary in the
Yes.
township.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get better as we get into it more.
Oh, I
It's a
know.
learning
Let's do it.
process.
It is.
I was also reading that a couple of the townships had like a website where they had like where people could ask questions and answer type of thing. Will we be able to do anything like that?
Or do you think we should
Through
keep it
Facebook,
to,
or?
do you think we should keep it to, hopefully to get people come to the meetings, you think we should get,
I think they should come
we
to
should
the
keep it
meeting.
localized to the meeting, so that way we're not
Yes.
being cluttered with so much stuff. If somebody
I agree.
can come in and ask a question, that way
If they
it's
can't
more,
make it to the meeting, then they can go to
Yes.
Tom. Tom could present it to the committee.
yes.
Okay.
I agree with that one.
Yeah, I'm looking at it for our time structure. I mean,
Right.
that'd be somebody that's really gonna have to be watching that. I mean, I think that'd be a hard thing to do. I think we should try and keep it, I mean, if someone wants to give Tom a letter, you know, their name's on it, but granted, we'll duly take that upon ourselves to consider what they want, but we want people here because this is for the people.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're at public comment now? Yep, all right. Public comments?
You're gonna go over this book, so you're gonna question anything that you think would help the agenda of your new program, right?
I'm gonna question anything that I don't feel
Is-
works for us, that you might have talked to me, you know, as a public, that's not
How
working for
about,
us in that section,
How
and go
about
through
us,
it.
if we're reading this book, can we question anything that we want specifically know a clarified answer to in these books?
Please do.
Okay, thank you.
It's also just to follow up why the public participation process, like Matt said, is so important, and hearing not just from the government study commissioners, they're spearheading and facilitating, but it's why there's public comment and why there's going to be public hearings as well that are even bigger than these meetings, to get feedback from the public on what they feel is currently working in the township, what may not be, and how to remedy it.
I think that's why we're all here. That's why we're all doing this.
We already scheduled a date and time, right?
Mhm.
So we're, okay. All right. We can adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
I'll
Okay.
Any opposed?
First time as chair, so I don't know.
Maybe it sounds,
Second, third.
it sounds kind of trivial, but like maybe